let me ask you this. So I think religion plays a big role into that.
For sure.
Right? I think, like, for me, I'm born Muslim, obviously. Right? Arab country, Syria, so on and so forth. I seen Andrew Tate just convert, right? I don't know if that was marketing or not. I hope it's not, obviously. But when I look at religion, I think religion is the only safe haven for people to have specific set of moral, cultural beliefs that always make you realize that whatever you do in this world doesn't really matter in a sense, right? You're always putting your energy to the end goal, which is you're going to meet God one way or another, right? You're only in this life, in this matrix for a specific amount of time. So how much, or at least why, one, I feel like you don't talk about religion enough. So why? Two is, what are your guys' thoughts on Islam in general or any specific religion, obviously? Like, one thing that's been really big on my mind as well is like this whole idea of Jews, right? Jews is a religion. It's not a race, right?
Judaism,
exactly. And I think a lot of people are starting to get it, like with this whole Kanye thing going on, right? They say you can't be anti-Semitic, for example. So how does religion obviously tie into what we're doing in this world and obviously the mission of self-conquer?
So religion, in my opinion, the current format of religion is this idea of self-actualization and figuring out, for some people, who God is. For other people, is it reincarnation? For other people, it's transcending to new planets, like the Mormons believe, or the Jews believe that a new Messiah is going to come, or the Christians believe that a Messiah has already come. Muslims believe that the Prophet Muhammad was the one that brought, God delivered.
He's the last prophet.
He's the last prophet. God delivered the final word to him.
Yep.
Therefore, that's the final word. There's so many different things. But what we need to look at, and this is where my passion lies, is what do all these wise texts and what do all these wise people that are, whether it's through God or whatever you want to call it, what do they all have in common? What are they all preaching? And what can we pull from all of that? I'll give you one. Every single religion, at least the major ones, and I've studied the Torah, I've studied the Quran, I've studied the Bhagavad Gita, I studied the Bible. I look at all of these, and one thing overall stands out to me, which is what you sow, you're going to reap. That is consistent throughout all wise texts. So what does that mean? That means that for whatever things you put out, you're going to receive an equal proportion to that. So, it's a difficult conversation because it's a transcendental conversation that people have been having for thousands of years. And that's why instead of, focusing on this idea of eternity right now, it's more so figuring out, like, what do I believe? Who am I? And why do I believe what I believe? And there's so much programming that takes place in all of these things that, I have my religious beliefs, I have my train of thought on certain topics, but at the end of the day, my pursuit is the pursuit of truth, right? So, for example, the Bible says, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." It's not you will believe the truth; it's you will know the truth. Therefore, it's so deep ingrained inside of you that it just resonates with you at a deep level. So, in my opinion, you have this idea of, like, for example, we talk about Kanye. He can say a thing about the Jewish people, that the Jewish run the media, all these things. I don't care. Right? I don't care who runs the fucking media. I don't care who runs the bank. I don't care who runs the real estate. What I need to figure out is, who am I, right? What does God or this idea of a superior being want from me? And what am I willing to do with that information that I've received? Am I going to be obedient to it? Or am I going to continue doing what everybody else is doing? And it's a lifelong journey. It's a journey that in your mid-20s, I don't think you have the full answer to. But as you continue developing yourself, if you're intentional, you're going to find truths that line up with you and truths that may be true that you may not agree with. And it's a tough one, G. It's a tough one for sure.
Yeah. Nate?
So it's very interesting, right? So two things that I find in religion. Before we tap into the two things, the funny thing is people have emotional biases and fight. And if we're striving to search the truth, we shouldn't be fighting, right? That's the first thing. What are some positive? Because there's every coin has two sides. There are good things and there are bad things. Let's go
Three
with
sides.
Three sides. And then you have
What
the
you
correct.
believe.
Correct. So one thing I enjoy about religion is friendships. In this world, we can't go alone.
Yeah.
I've learned that the hard way. I'm sure you have as well. So when you have people that have certain commonalities, certain belief systems
Yeah.
that align with
Yes.
you,
Yes.
it's a lot easier to bond, and it's a lot easier to nurture and nurture those relationships. That's one thing. The second thing, Mo, would you agree that this world is very dark?
For sure.
Perfect. Religion provides a moral compass.
Yes.
Christianity has its own sets of belief,
Yep.
Muslim, but in this dark world, one needs a moral compass, bro. If not, you'll get lost, and it's dark out there. So I do believe that there is huge benefits.
And I think you know, like for example, we have I know that there's like a lot of young listeners and all this stuff. You know, we come from a specific religious background. I've been through the entire crazy journey. I'll tell it to you another time. And my biggest thing goes back to the beginning. It's having a student mindset.
Facts.
It's having the mind of a student that like you don't know shit.
Yeah.
Like we have this idea of there's a universe and things are bigger than you. And the moment that you die, you're just a fart in the wind. Then how are you with such a finite mind attributing such infinite wisdom and knowledge to 7 billion people as if you knew the answer, you fool. Yeah. So have a student mind in everything that you do in life. And it's like Miyamoto Musashi says in the Book of Five Rings, one of the greatest samurai of all time. He says, think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. And what does that mean? Is that in the world, you can see this idea of higher purpose, but you have to look for it. But people are distracted. People are distracted by Bitcoin going up and down, which is totally fine. You got to pay the bills. People are distracted by this, by that, by this, by that. Why? Because the energy that you're attributing to those things are stealing away your ability to focus and nurture the things that matter. Yeah. And it goes back to what I said. Once you got the bread, now you're left with all the problems that money can't solve. And then you're realizing money ain't shit.
I mean, how many billionaires have to commit suicide for people to realize?
Yeah. Like we were just at a buddy's house. He's a buddy, and I think he makes 25 to 30 million net profit a year. Horrible relationship, on drugs 24/7. And I'm there and I'm like, he doesn't got to figure it out. But people from the outside looking in, they'd be like, damn, it'd be nice to be living in this crib with 30 million in the bank every single year. But the dude's like, dude, get me out of this hellhole. Yeah. So all you need is enough money to get out, to focus on yourself full time for the pursuit of truth. And there's nothing more beautiful in life than, like Nate said, to band together with people, have common goals, and to pursue things together, pursue the development of self, not only physical, not only mental, but spiritual and relational. And I think that there's a lot of truth with that. What I will say, you know, I think different religions offer a ton of incredible things. So I'll give you an example. Islam, for example. To me, Muslims, and I tweeted about it, they are the most hospitable people in the world. Undebatably, I was homeless and a Muslim dude took me in.
Yep.
And he was roommates with a gay guy that he took in himself.
Wow.
To that point, right? Wow. To that point. So I look at that and I'm like, what is it that this person believes that has changed him to the core to such a point that he's willing to do that?
Yeah.
Dude, I can mention to you 95% of Christians wouldn't have taken me in. Mm-hmm. Why? That's the questions you got to answer. Yeah. And those are the things that when you observe the real world, you start asking yourself certain things. You know, then you have, like, for example, Taoism, which is this idea that everything is energy. So you start viewing money not as paper, but you start viewing it as energy, as a resource to be expendable and to be distributed in order to attribute more energy. So there's a lot of principles that you can pull from different places. And it's just like my trading strategy. I've taken a lot of different things and I'm trying to figure out what is the best way for me. And that's where I've kind of been struggling myself. And I think it's a struggle that people that are intentional about it are going to have for the rest of their life. And I think it's a good one.